Hi, my name is Paris Gray from Bill Gear Insurance, and today we are going to talk about planning for life's unexpected twist. Now, you might be wondering, what's our unexpected twist? And we'll get right into that. But first, we are a local insurance agency here in Bedford, Texas. However, we service many states. So if you have any questions or need any help with your life or health insurance, please contact us. So let's get into what our unexpected twist. Let me see here if I can get there we go. So, unexpected twists. When I think about unexpected twists here, if you are over the age of 65, I am thinking about anything, well, really at any age, anything that impacts your activities of daily living. So, we're talking about surprise events like accidents, a car crash that causes an injury, or maybe a fall at home that leads to a broken hip, or maybe a stroke, or chronic illness, or surgery recovery, or cancer diagnosis, a mental health crisis, caregiver loss, anything that changes your day to day independence. That is what I'm thinking about when there's unexpected twists. A lot of times we just think about living and dying, but there's a lot that makes up the in between story of that. So here's what I'll go over. I have quite a few different scenarios, but they're bucketed into these big things. So, final expense, that of course is if the unexpected ends in your untimely death. Do you have your final expense planned out? The next two, hospital indemnity plans and cancer stroke insurance plans, those are going to be things that you think about to fill in gaps in between, like before you die. Hospital indemnity, if you are on an advantage plan, you are going to have a max out of pocket, and hospital indemnities are where those come into place. 1 in 3 have cancer or a stroke, so that's where that comes into place. We'll go into that next. And then overall legacy planning. If you already have your final expense plan, do you have the details taken care of? So these are kind of the unexpected twists that I'll be talking about, but feel free to add questions in the comments if you come up with anything else. Just to start, let's go over a scenario that has to do with cancer. So, cancer or stroke insurance. This is outside of your traditional health insurance. This is a payment that will be paid directly to you. So, think about the care that is needed when you recover from cancer or stroke. So, medically, yes, your health insurance is going to cover your medicines, your doctors. Well, it'll cover a medicine that's in your formulary, but what if there's a different type of treatment that you need? What if you want a different type of care? This is when these type of products come into play. So a couple of scenarios based on the first two things that we talked about. Think about here, Mary was diagnosed at 80. Her Medicare covered treatment, but she needed help paying for transportation, supplements, and home care. A cancer policy could have helped. So, right now, today, if you get cancer, depending on the type, will depend on the type of care that you need. Your hospital, check, you've got that taken care of. Doctors, check, you've got that taken care of. But right there, how are you going to get back and forth to your treatments? You might not be able to drive yourself. Who's going to cook your meals? Who's going to go to the grocery store? Who is going to help get you dressed, things of that nature. Those are what we consider gaps. And today in 2025 in Texas, the average per hour for a home health care worker is $35 an hour. And most of the time, they have a minimum of 4 hours. So that's something that you want to think about. Cancer and stroke insurance, quote unquote, is cheaper than life insurance. This is definitely like think of this an upgrade, an add on. but this is definitely something you should get. If you yourself are a survivor of cancer or a stroke, recommend this to someone else that you may know. Let's talk about hospital indemnity insurance. So first, I will be 40 this year, and a lot of scenarios they consider it the sandwich generation because I myself am a parent, and then also I have a parent who is over the age of 70, so I'm taking care of my child and my parent right in the middle of that sandwich. So a hospital indemnity insurance is a type of plan that pays you cash when you have a covered health event, like going to the hospital, seeing a doctor, or needing help after an illness. You choose how you use the money. This is very similar to the cancer or stroke policy, except this one is tied directly to your hospital indemnity. Um, if you are on Medicare and you're on an Advantage plan, I strongly recommend you look at the different indemnity plans that are available because you already know you have a gap. And let's say you've never had surgery or any emergency so far. What does the rest of your life look like? If you had any type of emergency where it required any type of hospital stay, what would you do? And then plus, if you already find yourself paying for a lot of prescriptions, hospital indemnity plans now have additional features that help with that as well. There also are some products that include a little bit of home health for at home and for in facilities. So these are all great products to at least think about if you needed something like that. So here's one example where a hospital indemnity plan really came into play. Mr. Harris fell and broke his hip. He stayed 4 nights in the hospital, then rehab. Medicare paid some, but he still owed $2,500, which is a surprise to his daughter who had to help. When you're retired, your income is normally fixed. You don't get raises unless you built them in for yourself. So other people that you care about normally help you carry that load. So this is something that you want to consider for sure. And one thing you always keep in mind with products are you cannot buy them if you need them. You have to buy them before you need them. Okay? So we talked about cancer and stroke insurance, hospital indemnity. Now let's go over some things that might surprise you. So legacy building, let's talk about it. So one thing for sure, do they know what you know? Listen to this scenario. Aunt Betty's funeral surprise. Aunt Betty had a life insurance but didn't tell anyone where the policy was. The family scrambled, paid $10,000 out of pocket, and later found the policy in a dresser drawer. Too late. Well, they'll get their money back, but that would have been helpful if they knew that ahead of time. If you have not planned a funeral recently, the average funeral now with a cost is well over $9,000. Some cremations with a viewing are starting at around 5,000 to 6,000. So if you are still thinking that a funeral and a cremation is going to be less than $5,000, you should probably check. One thing that I run into a lot here with seniors and their final expense, they have a policy, but they haven't planned out anything. Do they want a funeral? Do they want a viewing? Do they want obituaries? Do they want this? What all is going on? Which leads me next to announcements and paperwork. Depending on how many words, how long you want your obituary, some obituaries that I saw just last week were $800. Next, we're going to go into some different scenarios that tell you whether or not you need probate. And a lot of times you think that you have to be rich in order to deal with probate, but that is not the case. Probate isn't something that everybody runs into. Um, Other things, memorial reception, again, if you want to have those, there is a cost with that. Final bills. If you had a lot of recent medical treatment or anything like that, sometimes they will try and come after your assets to get those bills paid. Any debts or loans or anything like you have. Um, They will come after your assets for that too. So before we go into the next slide, some things that you will consider is, have you shared your final wishes with someone that you trust? Do your loved ones know where your policy documents are? And do you have enough coverage to pay for those items? And have you named a trusted person to carry out those plans? Those are some things you want to think about when you're looking at legacy building. Okay, so next we're going to go into some of the most common probate scenarios that come up so that we can talk about if probate is needed or not. So the first one, does a house owned solely in the deceased name require probate? Yes. I had a story today where a lady said her and her husband had been paying on the house for forever. He passed away, and her name being on there did not matter at all. So, one way to prevent this is to make sure you have a TOD, a transfer on death. In Texas, that's also called a ladybird deed. Um, Things like living trust, that's when you would reach out to an attorney and get that taken care of. This next one, does a bank account with a payable on death POD beneficiary require probate? The answer is no. That would go directly to a beneficiary. One thing that I always tell everyone is, if there is an option when you're buying something to add a beneficiary, go ahead and do so, because that will skip probate. Does life insurance with a named beneficiary require probate? No. Again, because the beneficiary is already listed. I have a couple of folks that push back a little bit about this, and if this is not the case, chances are you're not having. We're talking about more than just your traditional life insurance policy. But if a beneficiary is listed, that helps you. That's what skips probate. Does jointly owned property with the right of survivorship require probate? No, because there's always that plan in place as far as what will happen. You want to make sure that this paperwork is up to date. Another note that came out before is to make sure you're not initialing or handwriting and making changes to this type of thing, because that will make it void when you're trying to execute final wishes. Does a retirement account with the named beneficiary require probate? No. That will go directly to the beneficiary. That's another one of those. If you can list it, it's taken care of. And this one is very common. There are a lot of co-signers on vehicles. So, does a vehicle title only in the deceased name require probate? Yes. Yes. How you avoid this is having another one of those TODs, a transfer on death, adding a co-owner. Or place the vehicle in a revocable living trust. But this is also something that you'll have to look at, because that's something that could run into probate if you haven't already taken care of, or repossession or things like that. So that is all that we have here. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions about final expense planning, legacy planning, cancer, stroke insurance, life insurance, your Medicare, anything like that, give us a call at Build Your Insurance.